Good evening. This is a story about you. A man paid $7,500 to have a Mark Sanchez jersey shot beyond the solar system. The jersey came from a playoff game in which Sanchez had fumbled the ball after colliding face to butt with a teammate. The other team returned the so-called butt fumble for a touchdown, ending the Jets' season. The man, Jim Harrison, has paid this money because he is a serious fan of the Jets and wants to protect the jersey from anti-fans and others who might use it to shame him and his team. And also, he feels this jersey, which he paid $810 for, making his total investment in this endeavor more than $8,000, has no place left on this earth. This jersey will be packed into the cargo hold of a satellite being shot into orbit by a corporation that would like to remain nameless. This corporation uses this satellite to track people's cellular phones. Nothing creepy. One of the tracking services no one minds having. To launch satellites into space requires ballast, and so in addition, they offer the service of launching any given thing into space at the rate of $10 million per square meter. Ashes are most common, and most bereaved individuals opt to send only a tiny fraction of their loved ones out into the black. Wedding rings, photos of those who requested space burial but for whom no ashes can be located. This corporation assisted Mr. Hendrickson in packing his jersey into the smallest possible container, a vacuum-sealed plastic tube slightly smaller than a beer bottle. This is what the story is. Not that this man loved a team so much he paid a small fortune to put a shame shirt out of the reach of his imagined enemies, and not that a corporation that watches you while you sleep in a way that comforts you more than it bothers you is also charging a great sum of money to use the dead as ballast and set them drifting towards no one knows what. The story is that in an infinite universe with infinite possibilities, this, like every secret, will be unearthed. Some creatures not at all like us will find this package and will, if we can understand them at all, assume it was a message to them. And what will they make of this? The tiny capsules of ash, the grass-stained shirt packed into a bottle it could never return to, the tiny circles of gold, the photos of those lost and not recovered. Whatever else was worth the price to push that far away. What will they see when they look? What will it tell them about themselves? Welcome, everyone, to the 2016 Fall Read. On behalf of the Department of English, Foreign Language, and Cultural Studies at Northwestern State University, it is my extreme pleasure to have you all with us this evening for yet another evening of reading and letters from the Northwestern State community. Tonight's theme is transformations, and you will hear many different variations on that theme as we proceed through the evening. For the rest of the evening, our readings are going to be presented uninterrupted, which means that each reader will come up and start reading directly without a further introduction. That will hopefully keep things moving in a nice, brisk path. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Please take this moment, if you haven't already, to silence your cell phone. And before we get started with our next official reading, we have a quick announcement from Dr. Shane Rasmussen. Thank you very much.
Howdy, folks. I just wanted to let you know about these awesome things we have over here. The refreshments, which will be afterwards, the Folk Life, Wonderful, Trifold, and all of these books over there are free for the taking. Yes, I know, all of them. And I mean, look at this. That's Julie Kane's, her poem that was the cover of that, because she was the keynote speaker, and her address is in this for the conference proceedings. Or this one, where we had 16 different films, 12 different directors, and they talked about their films. So if you're interested in Louisiana on film, boom, why wouldn't you pick that up for free and go read it into your heart's content and go, wow. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know about these things, and also that Dr. Rittmeyer is here, our department head Jim Mishler, Dr. Rozowski, and Andy Briseno, as you just saw, and we've got some other folks here and they are here to talk about also your tremendous passion for English. So if you're interested in the English major, we're certainly we're open to that conversation, you might say, and we're eager to have it with you, because frankly, without words, how would you get by? So we might as well say it well. So I'll leave that up to you. Jim?
This is called Boxes, Lockets, and Clocks by Samantha Murray. Tia's mother's truth is kept in a wooden box on the mantle above the fireplace. It's a plain box, not ornate at all. Sometimes they are carved and intricate, like the delicate jewelry box. Tia has seen next to her aunt's bed. A few people wear them around their necks, a wooden locket nestling at the base of their throat. Always wood, rosewood, mahogany, black cherry. A truth would not stay in steel or gold. Her mother's box is a simple pale cream beach. Tia cannot remember it being there. She never used to notice it, just another familiar part of the house she was used to growing up in. These days, though, at nearly 13, Tia finds her eyes drawn to it whenever she is in the room. Whenever her mother isn't nearby, Tia often goes and runs her fingers over this cool smoothness of the lid. She puts her ear up to it and imagines she can hear a faint swish swooshing sound, although she can't, not really. "It's no business of yours," her mother replied curtly when Tia asked her many months ago what was inside. "Don't touch it." They don't know what's inside, her friend Casey tells her with the gentle superiority that comes from being born 9 months earlier than Tia and having older sisters. They can guess, but they don't know. She tells Tia how her eldest sister's truth was making bumpy nodules on her chest for 2 days before it seeped out of her like a coiled mist, and her sister caught it and put it in her bedroom drawer while she went to buy a locket for it. Her sister's pretty young to have her truth already, Casey says. Tia doesn't always know whether to believe Casey, although it is not hard to. She's always so certain and convincing, and her eyes are very direct. Tia suspects that inside her mother's box is the truth that she is adopted. She looks nothing like her mother. Her eyes and hair are brown while her mother is very fair. Perhaps the truth is that her father was the one who had wanted her, and her mother never did. It would explain why she was so very strict with Tia, why she yelled, why nothing Tia ever did was good enough and should be better than that. When her mother screeches at her for staying out too late with Casey and for not being disciplined enough, not being motivated enough, Tia wonders, not for the first time, what would happen if she opened the lid and let her mother's truth out. Casey says that if you let a truth out, it is not true anymore, but Tia doesn't think that can be right. She doesn't open her mother's box, though, just in case. I want to be adopted, she thinks. I don't want to be related to you. She sees then sometimes that the shops are on the street, the grown-ups who drift around with something unsure, searching and desperate about their eyes, like they've lost something. They never have lockets, and Tia doesn't think they have a truth at home, safe in a wooden box either. They scare her a little, and she shies away from them. It is not until she is 30 years old and that some small hard lumps form in Tia's neck around her lymph nodes. They get more swollen and painful as the day progresses and move around if she presses on them. Eventually that evening, when she pushes down hard to try and push them down, it pours out of her like smoke, but heavier, denser, more undulating. And Tia sees that finally she has a truth of her own. She cups it between her two hands and puts it in a little drawer at the base of her wooden clock. She has a box upstairs purchased many years ago with a little rose inlay, but she decides to leave it in the clock. She feels strangely peaceful. She doesn't know exactly what the truth is, although she suspects it may have something to do with the hard things she's learning about her own nature by being in a long-term relationship. But she is constant enough in knowing what her life will be. She's content enough, not knowing what her life will be about just yet. It is enough to know that her life will have been about something. She doesn't tell her mother that she has a truth at last. Her mother does not approve of her lifestyle choices. Tia can feel the judgment in the narrowing of her mother's gaze, the tightening of the lips, every word she's not said. When Tia's mother dies, Tia has not seen her for nearly 8 months. She walks through the old house, feeling like everything is coated with fine dust of memory, of history. She is arrested by the sight of her mother's box on the mantle, exactly where it has always been, not budged an inch. She puts her hand on the lid and pauses. It doesn't matter now, she thinks. It doesn't matter anymore. The lid has a weight to it that Tia isn't expecting. It opens slowly. and her mother's truth comes out like a little puff of air from bellows, like an exhaled breath, like a sigh. A truth her mother was gripped and terrified by, love. Her mother loves her, loved her, always did, always did. Perhaps her mother never even knew how much. Tia feels a lump in her throat and presses there with her fingers, but it is not her truth. Going from forth unfurling, it can't be. It is something she can't keep in a box, something softer and quieter, like regret, like sorrow. And Tia stands there till twilight falls outside the window, making it hard to see the edges of things. In her mother's house, an empty box full of nothing on the mantle.
If there is something better than falling in love, then I have not found it yet. You see, love is like rose petals, free falling from the sky, each petal floating lightly into the day's end. There's nothing better than falling. Nothing better than feeling the wind between your fingers, knowing that nothing can stop you, feeling like the weight of the world never weighed you down. Falling in love is like being a rose petal. So happy, so red, so angry, so full of life. There's nothing better than falling in love. Love is like music. Your words will sound better over somebody else's song. You just don't know how to sing it yet. Smudged ink won't stop you from singing, and that's what falling in love does. Falling in love makes you write a poem for a person who wants to be friends, but you poet for her anyway. You write about her smile, and how it changes seconds into hours, how her eyes make misery melt marvelously, maddening isotopes establish metabolic metronomes, intensifying moments. These memories will never go away. You write about her, how her tears break your heart, even when you know that she's just a crybaby. Falling makes you feel like she'll think of you, and in that moment, in that instant, all the feelings you've ever had have finally called up to her, but they never do. But that's the great thing about falling. It doesn't hurt until you reach the ground. Dear depression, where did you go? I thought that we were best friends. I thought that you'd be here for me when I woke up in the middle of the night. Dear depression, I miss you. I wish that you would come home so I could lie in this bed next to someone that would understand me quite like you do, dear depression. You don't understand me anymore. Some nights I wake afraid of losing the very essence of the thing that made me who I am, dear depression. You made me. You broke me. You held on to me just to let me go at the very moment that I needed somebody, dear depression. I still need you. And if you don't come back to me, I don't know whether or not I can make it through this horrible life that I live, dear depression. You ground me. You make me feel like nothing can stop me, dear depression. You stop me. You make me feel like I can't do anything, dear depression. You make me feel like I'm invincible, I can do anything, dear depression. I don't know whether or not I can go on without you, dear depression. You killed every dream I ever had. I wake up after sleepless nights wondering whether or not I could continue on this path of loneliness, dear depression. You are the reason I'm lonely. You're the reason I don't have friends. It made me realize that having friends is much like having ice cubes. See, they're there to help you make everything feel better until they melt because they can't deal with the heat of the moment anymore, dear depression. Thank you. Because without you, I would have never known the sweet taste of ecstasy. I would have never known what it's like to choke on my own words. See, depression, you've helped me learn that words are like minuscule bullets that sometimes come out the right way, but sometimes your chambers is locked. Dear depression, the day I tried to shoot myself, you reminded me why I'm alive. I'm here because I am meant to suffer, but I suffer because I'm meant to teach. And I teach because nobody knows how it feels to be your best friend better than I do.
Why is it that when I see you, I judge me for you? Why do I feel that I have to justify my clothes, my music, and my opinions? Why do your condescending eyes justify these beliefs? Why is it that without speaking, we have agreed to this void between us? You being on the accepted side, free to do and wear what you want, while my side shouldering the burden of not fitting into your perfect picture. To make it worse, you will sit in the same room with me, dress like me, and try to imitate the casual way I spin the Americanized English language around my tongue, then say I am the one out of place. Why is it that you can only talk to me when you are not with your peers and never unprovoked? You will say that you are human and spit some bullshit about evolution, but can't look me in the eyes when I say hi in the hallway between classes. You can be human by yourself. If evolution is real, then you are obsolete. Not because of anything physical, you just never learn how to think, to speak, to let me be me. Do you lose sleep? Because I do. When you own a gun because I scare you and I don't, because I scare you. I hate when you say that I say that it's all about race because I wish it wasn't. If it's not about race, why does a hoodie represent hood on me, terrorism on Muslims, and winter on white folks? I could give you these back and forths all day, but that's been done too many times. You're gonna go back to your respective residences, deny that you're an innate racist, and say that I am just another oh, you didn't mean to think that. Black person that's complaining and needs to work harder. Well, how about this? What if I get 2 jobs, go to school, and dress like you? Then will I be American instead of being labeled black or African American? Because your kids rarely do that, yet they're just proud Americans. I guess only humans can be Americans, so keep it. Being human is outdated anyways. All right. My name is AJ, and today I wrote a poem for y'all called The Seasons of a Semester. And even though I wrote it today, it's really a collaboration with all the professors I've had and all the peers that I've had. So bear with me, it's kind of new. And it begins again. A new class with old friends. New people and unlimited potential. New knowledge to work the mental. And behold, it was very good. Then comes the summer's blazing heat, new love, new beefs, quizzes, parties, homework, worksheets, no sleep, until it all catches up to you, begin to free fall and fall. And fall under the weight of past due homework, tomorrow's quiz, test, you're stressed, breakups, shakeups, you're depressed, but wait, Louisiana doesn't have fall in its forecast, so we fast forward to winter. It's like peace, be still. It is in these moments that we reflect the beauty of the imperfect, when we realize that we only have one more paper, one more final to take. So after we rest, we rally those troops and we storm that last hill until we're done, but only for the moment. For the schools taught us the seasons are cyclic and the slate will be wiped clean for us to do better next time. Thank you.
I am reading from C.A. Conrad's Beautiful Marsupial Afternoon, New Semantics. And this is a call to action for poets. Oil this war. How is it where you live? If there are no wealthy people and or the poor people are nurtured and protected, then maybe this exercise is not for you. I have been littering in wealthy neighborhoods with joyful protest for some time now. It is exciting to see refuse in the open, not hidden in landfills, if only for a moment. Here in Philadelphia, taxes pay for uniformed workers to clean prosperous neighborhoods of cigarette butts, cans, and wrappers all day, each day, while completely ignoring working class and poor communities. Philadelphia public school students have a 51% dropout rate, and 25% of the city's population lives below the poverty line. That's 1 in 4 people. That's 1 in 4 people. The police patrol and protect the rich while they infamously threaten, beat, and rob the poor. Just ask Philadelphia Daily News reporters Barbara Laker and Wendy Rudderman. We must resist, we must be resistance. Take initial notes on the class structure of where you live. Save your garbage for a week. packaging, and containers, especially plastics. Take notes about each item, tracing its origin of production from label information or the manufacturer's website. Find other companies they work with. For instance, a candy bar needs chocolate from South America and plastics, inks, and glue for wrappers. Trace on a map the distance each item needs to travel to the candy bar factory, then from the factory to your city. Calculate gasoline and oil consumption per mile, and consider that plastics are petroleum byproducts, and not just the packaging, but in fact many goods themselves are made from oil. Hand lotion, shoes, ballpoint pens, disposable diapers, glue, rubbing alcohol, soda, and milk jugs, credit cards, nail polish, ink, crayons, and more. Much of the modern world is oil. Toys, televisions, telephones, microchips, luggage, cars, condoms. It's in the air, water, soil, food. It's in our bodies. Take notes about oil. Take notes about your discovery of oil consumption in ways you had never considered or realized. After immersing yourself in this information, stop. Then write nonstop for 30 minutes. Whatever comes to mind, just write. Let it flow. This is when the best language for our poems will arise. Real change needs creativity and action. Using a black marker, write suggestive notes on your garbage. Littering in wealthy neighborhoods is precarious but gratifying. Just imagine them reading your used tampon marked U.S. War and puzzling over the message. Make the rich think, or at least their children think. Oil, oil everywhere. Write on old shoes, sandwich wrappers, cans, bags, snotty tissues, used condoms. This oil war. On an empty bottle of hand lotion, oil this war. On a cereal box, this faggot world victorious. On a soda bottle, your sissy children saved the world from you. As citizens, it is our duty to communicate the temperature of suffering. Littering helps us see our planet's transmuted elements before they're swept into trucks and hauled to the dump, far, far away, leaking toxins into the water and soil. A tidy sidewalk does not equal thoughtful, mindful citizenry. Citizens of the world, rise up and fill the streets of the affluent with your shit and garbage today. Let them smell and read the products of their wars. Write on your garbage, we demand a planet safe for animals and other humans. Take notes about your littering excursions. Take notes about the neighborhoods you visit with your deposits. Take notes, take many notes, then stop. Write for 30 minutes on autopilot. Always remember to carry your notes with you wherever you go to pull and wrench your poem into existence.
The special ones. We were the few, the rare, the ones who were capable of surviving. No one could explain it to us. The scientists that survived, rather than test on themselves, they tested on us. We were special. My world was normal, well, as normal could get. I had a normal life. I went to school every day, came home, did homework. Normal, like I said. I didn't wish for anything different. I quite liked the normalcy. But that one day, pretty much changed my life forever. I didn't understand it. Nobody understood it. It just happened with no cause or warning. I was sitting outside that day, reading a book, enjoying the nice spring breeze when I felt it getting warmer. I didn't think anything about it, just thought that maybe the sun had moved out from behind a cloud. But then it got even warmer. I looked to the sky and noticed the sun looked way bigger than it should. "Aria, come inside. There's something weird happening on the TV," said my boyfriend Luke from the doorway. I got up and joined him in the living room, where a news report was airing on the TV. "Breaking news," the news reporter spoke. "Reports all across the country have reported rapidly increased temperatures within just the last few minutes." "I thought it was just me," I said to Luke. The news switched over to a meteorologist. "We do not want to alarm anyone, but the average high temperature for today was around 75 degrees. Within the last few minutes, the average temperature has risen to 90 degrees. It is typically unusual for temperature to rise like this. There has also been reports of the sun appearing rather larger than normal. We will stay alive in order to keep everyone informed. What in the world is going on? It should not be that hot right now, I said. I don't know, but I think we should stay inside for the rest of the day, Luke replied. I went to look out the window and saw steam rising off the asphalt like it does during the summer. The sun looked even larger than it had before. The hours passed, and it just kept getting hotter and hotter. By the time it should have started to get dark, the sun was still sitting high up in the sky, growing larger. We listened to the news as they began to speak again. We have come to the conclusion that something terribly wrong has begun to happen to the sun. We still do not know what is the cause of this or if it will correct itself. We advise everyone to stay inside in order to protect themselves from the heat and whatever damage the sun may cause. At that moment, we heard a loud bang. We went to the window and saw electrical wires on fire. The heat from the sun must have caused them to explode, Luke said. Look, I exclaimed, pointing to the sun. Parts of the sun appeared to be on fire, and as I noticed that, pieces of something began to rain down from the sky. Luke ran outside. Luke, wait, we shouldn't go outside. I ran out the door after him. It's the sun, Arya, the sun is breaking apart, he said, looking at me eyes wide. As he said that, the pieces from the sky landed on the ground, catching things on fire. That's when I realized it wasn't pieces of the sun, but rather fireballs exploding off of the sun. I grabbed Luke's arm and tugged on him to try to get him to come back inside, but he was too transfixed on the fireballs raining down from the sun. Luke, I screamed, we have to go inside. Take shelter. He turned around to answer me, but before any words came out of his mouth, the sun erupted. There was no sound, just bright white explosion. Everything was so bright and I couldn't see anything, and the heat, oh God, the heat was unbearable at this point. I felt a hand, Luke's hand, grab me and pull me towards the storm shelter. As he ran, the fireballs fell faster and faster, and as the fireballs fell, the light faded and it grew darker. Weeks passed before they came for us, the scientists. They brought us to a camp and told us we were lucky to be alive, that we were the beginning of the change, something new. But not all who lived to make it to the camp lived much longer than that. Luke was amongst those who did not survive, and I was left alone to deal with transformations that were to come.
So, Nicolás Guillén, no sé por qué piensas tú. No sé por qué piensas tú, soldado, que te odio yo. Si somos la misma cosa, yo, tú.
Why would you think, soldier? Why would you think, soldier, that I hate you? For we are just alike, I, you.
Tú eres pobre, lo soy yo. Soy de abajo, lo eres tú. ¿De dónde has sacado tú, soldado, que te odio yo?
You are poor, so am I. I am despised, and so are you. How come there is this idea in you, soldier, that I am one to hate you?
Me duele que a veces tú te olvides de quién soy yo. Caramba, si yo soy tú, lo mismo que tú eres yo.
It hurts me that sometimes you forget who I am. Why, if I am you, just as you are me?
Pero no por eso yo he de mal quererte tú. Si somos la misma cosa, yo y tú. No sé por qué piensas tú, soldado, que te odio yo.
But in spite of this, I will not hate you, for we are just alike, I, you. Why would you think, soldier, that I hate you?
Ya nos veremos yo y tú juntos en la misma calle, hombro con hombro, tú y yo, sin odios, ni yo ni tú, pero sabiendo tú y yo a dónde vamos, yo y tú. No sé por qué piensas tú, soldado, que te odio yo.
We will see each other very soon, I and you, together in the same street, side by side, you and I, without hatred, neither coming from me nor from you, but knowing you and I, where we are heading, I and you. I don't know why you think, soldier, that I hate you.
A footnote, an afterthought, small side notes on the ridges of your life. What was it called when you write on the sides of your pages? Along the margins, fickle and fleeting, a passing glance in an otherwise captivating story. Am I just the text features in your saga? Is my picture over a caption? Here lies the shell of the girl whose illusions I shattered. She was once a rare species, but now, no, I am not. I refuse. No longer will I be the devotee of your convoluted schemes. I will not ride along while you drag me into the depths of despair that I always end up in when we are together. Now I'm thinking of me. Now I'm using my voice. Now I'm starting over.
Second death. Another day I rise, another day I continue this eternal hell of an existence. Every once in a while, I just pray to the gods a large rock will fall from the ceiling and crush me. Life as a drogger is not present. Oh, how I wish I could have been burned on a pyre, but no, my shield brothers had to lay me to rest in the clan's tomb. The bastards must have done something wrong, because instead of eternal feasting and fighting, I am forced to shamble around the closed-off tomb with the only company being dead ancestors. They don't cause much trouble, but they make terrible conversationalists. Each day is misery. My bones ache, my flesh falls off, and I think I'm beginning to have a putrid stench. I don't know how long I've been this way, but apparently it's long enough to start smelling of a rotten elk. My people had legends of the Draugr. My mother always told them to me as a means to scare me into doing my chores and finishing the garbage she called food. Legends told they were mindless, felt no pain, and could only be sated by killing anything that crossed their path. That couldn't be farther from the truth. For starters, I am in intense pain constantly. Hell, my arm fell off last week and it felt like a Jotun tore it off. My flesh sloshes off like melting snow, falling in sickly puddles that I have to dredge through on my rounds around the tomb. And for the record, my desire to kill is no greater than it was when I was a berserker on the battlefield many moons ago. My only solace is my pet, Squeakers. He's a friendly little rat I had found in the tombs. And by found, I mean he's the only one I managed to catch to eat. But I just couldn't eat him after seeing his sweet little face. He is not the most gentlest pet, however. He enjoys gnawing at my flesh and trying to crawl into my chest cavity. He gnawed through my elbow the other day and it fell off. And yes, it was the same arm. Not as severe, though. I do not know what my role in life is now. Do I mindlessly roam these halls, acting as a sentry? Perhaps I should try and find a way out. If I did that, the villagers may not appreciate my presence. My milky white eyes and slate gray skin are not the most attractive features a Nord could possess. Oh, what's this? Visitors at last. Oh, damn, I forgot that I looked like the thing under the little children's beds. How do I handle this? Oh, hell, they're coming this way. Wait. Why do they have torches and swords? Is that a sack? Grave robbers! The scoundrels! I won't allow them to defile my ancestors. I shamble towards them, grabbing an axe off the body of my great-great-grandfather. I shall do him proud. As I approach, the one holding the sack screams as a small child would upon seeing my grisly visage, and he calls himself a Nord. Pathetic. The other two draw their blades and begin to strike at me. The first one is as coordinated as my shambling self and misses blindly. The second clips my arm right off. Yes, the same damn arm once again. The pain, while burning, infuriates me and inspires me to protect my ancestors. Using my intact arm, I pick up the severed arm and wield it as a weapon. This is even more threatening as the arm is still grasping the axe. However, my enemies are not fazed. The two with swords strike again, and this time they manage to grievously wound me. I felt the blade pierce through my back. Apparently, having dead eyes hinders your peripheral vision, but not vision as a whole. Interesting. I look down at the sword blade, which appears to have ripped out what I think is my heart. Is that a lung? It's black and shriveled, so it's hard to tell, but it hurt like hell. I fall to my aching, decrepit knees and receive my second death. Perhaps now I can enter the halls. Rather than join my ancestors in feasts and battle, I think I'll have a nice conversation with the Allfather and get some answers to why the hell I was turned into a Draugr rather than receive eternal bliss. My final sight is that of Squeakers, who then proceeds to eat my eye. Thanks for that. No, really, thanks. Thank you. All right, this is Pigeonholed. Catherine, I've decided I no longer wish to be an active player in society. By that, I also mean I no longer wish to be human. In fact, I will become a pigeon. No, do not weep for me. I have given this a lot of thought. I will shed my clothes, liberally apply glue and feathers, have a friend spray me gray, and I will proceed down to the nearest park. One that has an older lady who, by some miracle, has a bag of breadcrumbs she slings out to the dumbfounded flock before her. My dumbfounded flock. She will not be alarmed by my presence, mind you. She will be soothed by my gentle cooing and spastic twitches of my arms, now wings. Why be a pigeon? Well, I imagine it's a simple and modest life, one such life that is free of all mundane responsibilities, yet close enough to modern civilization that I won't feel as if I've become Amish. Perhaps you might visit me on weekends. I'll be in the tree over the west parking lot, the one my boss always parks in when he walks his dog. My direct purpose is to ruin the interior of his convertible with what I expel from my cloaca, which I do not have at the moment. Guess I'll need to look into surgery to get one. A cloaca, I mean. Can't quite be a pigeon without one. I'll need you to call your ex-boyfriend, the one you always remind me about, the one that does plastic surgery, see if he can retrofit on a few bird-like appendages. I'll take that look as shock as a we'll see. Right, forgive my digression. I meant to tell you why I want to be a pigeon. Life, as of late, has become more and more bothersome as the days go by. Civil unrest, Blink-182 made an album we didn't want, social media is plagued with Kardashian wannabes and guys playing golf as if it wasn't the most boring thing in the world. My mother keeps telling me about her really god-awful party dips that will surely put her into a diabetic coma one day. To top it all off, people bicker back and forth in any setting over any trivial matter, much like at the coffee shop yesterday. You were busy ordering a venti frappa kappa mocha, please pour in a pound of sugar, decaf, no calf, whatever the hell. And I was busy watching two young men argue over who was a better vegan. It was pointless. It's all pretty pointless. So I'll take my chances as a pigeon. As for my previous life, tell my wife I love her. No, not you, the other one, Catherine. Yes, of course I mean you. Put down the phone and stop trying to call my therapist. Sell my car and the kids if you want. Tossing away everything I have in this life for the life of a pigeon is not that big of a deal. I've simply given up. I've accepted that no matter what I do, I will never achieve true freedom. I'll slave away for a dollar bill and get spat upon in return. Every day will no longer have the strict routine that I work myself to death in, and I won't pace around a cubicle cage until the stress kills me. I'm electing to become a pigeon because being human just isn't worth it anymore.
This is titled Lorne Yet. It gives one power they never knew, changes the world in a second, views of light and dark, sharp and dull, colors and grayscale. Historical and modern, metal, plastic, thick and thin, the personalities of many with one solid focus. All people, young and old, admire their purpose, their protection, their freedom. Scholars and hipsters, jocks and geeks, we all deserve this wondrous thing, whether they can be there or not. Whether there be a need or not. If only they could bring light to darkness. If only they could move without control. If only they could make sense of shape and ink. If only they could stop being lost. If only they could not be broken.
Hi, I'm Sedin El Nahas, in case you're lost on the program. I brought two poems to read today. One is by Mohja from her collection, Emails from Shahrazad. She's better known for writing The Girl in the Tangerine Scarf. This is from her poetry book. The poem's titled The Cherries. I left Syria many years ago as a child, and I don't remember Syria, but Syria remembers me. I'm sure of it. Syria keeps a small pillow embroidered with my name. Syria is saving some cherries in a bowl for me at the back of the refrigerator. Last April, a friend just back from Syria phoned to say he tried to buy a book of poetry in a small bookshop in Struge. A book wedged high on a dusty shelf. The shopkeeper said, "You can't have any from that stack. They're from Mohja, daughter of Munzir and Maysoon." See? Syria still remembers its children who live in late capitalism and information age away. Some people say that Syria would stare at me with provincial hostility if I went back. Some people say all Syria would do is empty my wallet with demands for bribes, complain about the price of melons, calculate the value of my watch and ring, and turn me in to the state police. I'm sure that if I went back to Syria, there would be music and all the melodrama of a Hindi movie. The ground would love me. The trees would lean toward me like aunts. The mountains would protect me like cousins. The ancient churches would kiss my forehead. The mosques would hold and rock me in their arches. The synagogues would lay blessings on my shoulders like a shawl. I'm sure the fountains would splash my feet with water like playmates who've known me since first grade. Every morning would smell like coffee and cardamom. Every afternoon would taste like coriander and mint. Every evening would linger like the music of the oud. We would all stretch out on the roof under the stars, eating nuts and drinking tea in small flowered glasses. I'm sure Damascus would puff on an argile and laugh a deep laugh like a granduncle. Aleppo would croon for me like a handsome blue-eyed muezzin. Hama would frown and act stern, but with a secret kindness on its brow. Homs would set oval platters before me of stuffed eggplants spilling over with almonds. And Latakia would take me to the beach and skip with me and buy me big, bright plastic balls. I'm sure the villages would soak my hair in henna and lead me to their daughter's wedding at Deir ez-Zor. The gypsies would tie sashes around my hips and play their squeaky violins and whirl me. The Circassians would send a gorgeous bridegroom to carry me away in the dark of night on jet black horses caparisoned and tasseled red and gold. The Kurds would pierce my ears with their silver Kurdish words. Syria's Palestinians would embroider me a dress and tie my school books in a satchel. The Druze would introduce me to esoteric mysteries in small white mountaintop temples. The Alawites would sit me down and tell me old and powerful stories handed down in hushed voices by 100 generations. Hatreds based on class and sect would disappear, along with political prisons and electric torture prods, and no one would be afraid to be seen talking to each other or listening to poetry about Syria. This is my poem, and I can do what I want with the world in it. I can picture such things because all these years I have traced those people and places on my map. See, here on my map of Syria, it's faded where it's been folded because I carry it in a pocket called heart. Look, I told you this was a melodrama. Here's how the soap opera goes. Syria plays a poor woman with a cruel master who wouldn't let her care for me, as a child deserves to be cared for. He wouldn't let her feed me cherries and dress me in Aleppan wool. He wouldn't let her pin little gold trinkets on me to protect me from the evil eye. So she had to send her child far away, even though I cried and she cried. How do these Egyptian movies ever end? And where did I go? And what did I become? And in my new home, did I eat cherries? What happens to a child who can no longer speak the language of its mother? What happens when a bird, it can no longer fly in its natural habitat? What happens to a girl who wanted once to put her head on a small pillow embroidered with her name? Tell me, who ate the cherries? They were in a small bowl in the back of the refrigerator. They were for me because Syria remembers. I was sure of it. The second poem is from a Persian Sufi poet, and just before I start, I want to tell you that he talks about the friend in this poem is God. That's all you need to know to get it. It's titled If You Don't Stop That. It's from a collection titled The Gift. I used to live in a cramped house with confusion and pain, and then I met the friend and started getting drunk and singing all night. Confusion and pain started acting nasty, making threats with talk like this. If you don't stop that, all that fun, we're leaving.
There's a baby crying in the next room over. I can hear the unpleasant sound through the thin hospital walls. It makes me want to scream. Where is the mother who should be comforting the child? Why hasn't she shut it up yet? I just want to go back to bed. I force my eyes shut as I roll over to face away from the shrieking. After what feels like forever, the crying finally stops, but the peace only lasts for 5 minutes. A second burst of painful bellowing is shouted from the baby's small lungs. At least I had those 5 minutes, I mumble to myself. My eyes slowly open as I look at the empty hospital-issued bassinet by my bed. Only a tiny pink blanket remains in the otherwise empty crib. Tears form in my eyes as I softly whisper in the silence of my room. At least I had those 5 minutes.
They took the acorn and planted in the lot, nourishing it carefully, watching it grow, waiting for the day someone's eye it caught. Who wanted an oak tree, not ever the willow? I came along one day and felt its bark, and knew in an instant I was the oak. You ask why the oak instead of the aardvark? Of course, I'm a lady and never a bloke. When my time comes round, wrap me round the sapling root and plant by the creek, enduring the seasons there in the ground. Year after year, always stately and no way meek. My family will come to see me and sit in the shade, happy to be near me and never dismayed.
Hello. I'm glad other people did some things about death. I felt like a jerk. Transformations. I tried to do a translation of his Metamorphosis, a little bit of it for you, but it was terrible. I wouldn't inflict it on you. So, but I do have a couple of poems that deal with death, or translations of Latin poems that deal with death, and then a couple of originals that are supposed to cheer you back up. So you'll forgive me. The first one is just a little scene, a snippet from Virgil's Aeneid. The poet's he has his hero Aeneas go down into the underworld. He sees all the souls teeming on the far shore who can't cross over with the ferryman because they don't have proper payment for passage. And among them, he spies the souls of children. And what strikes the hero, and what the poet wants to impress upon us, is how many there are, the multitude of them. And he uses the image of two fall images, one of falling leaves and one of migrating birds, to communicate it. So this is from the Aeneid in Book 6. And both boys and girls unwed there were, put on pyres, set alight right before their parents' eyes. As many as when in sylvan glades first frost you find in multitude, having drooped and slipped their embracing boughs, all these leaves fallen. Or as when whirling on their wings from the deep to the land, great migrations glom together. The frost makes them flee over every sea beyond, seeking sun-soaked lands. The second one is also from the same poem. It's the death scene of the queen of Carthage. Her name is Dido. Her sister's name is Anna. Dido she was jilted by her boyfriend, the so-called hero, right, Aeneas. She tricked her sister into making a large pyre of all the gifts he had given her, and she said, well, let's burn all the stuff he gave me, right? But her real plan was to climb on top and stab herself with his sword and light the thing on fire and die very dramatically. So he could see the smoke from his ship on the sea and feel really bad. So her sister finally figures out what really happened. She sees her up there. She's already stabbed herself. The pyre is lit. She complains. She takes her sister in her arms so she can take her last breath into her mouth. And then Dido can't quite die, so Juno sends down Iris, the rainbow, to release her by cutting a lock of hair for Hades. So here's the poem. This is Anna speaking. Was this your plan all along? And did you draw me into the scheme with such deceit? The altar, the pyre, the raging fire, all these made ready with my own aid? How shall I, so forsaken, begin to unfold my feelings at this? How could you? By dying, you scorn your sister and partner. Would that you had called me to the same fate as you. Would that this grief destroyed us both at the same stroke by the same sword. Did I help you build up this monstrosity with my own hands, calling on the gods with you to bless this enterprise, only so that, when all is said and done, cruel one, you would use the thing to leave me here alone? For thou hast killed us both, my sister, and our people too, the Sidonian race, and your very own city. Bring me water so that I may bathe her wounds and make ready to take her final breath in my mouth ere it comes. So saying these things from the depth of her being, she wrapped her sister half dead in the fold of her arms, and groaning at the sight, sopped up the black blood using the corner of her robe. The queen tried, but failed to open her eyes again, and beneath her chest the piercing wound hissed complaint. 3 times she began to raise herself up, struggling to leave the couch. 3 times she twisted on that deathbed, turning her eyes to the gods, pleading for the light of heaven to come, lamenting when it appeared, but relief did not. But then all-powerful Juno, moved to pity for the lengthy sorrow and a difficult death, dispatched Iris herself from high-topped Olympus, the goddess of rainbow, whose job it is to free struggling souls from the tangle of their limbs. For as Dido was reaching an unmerited and early end so suddenly, by her own burning madness taken in, Proserpina was yet to offer a lock from the top of her tawny mane, required sacrifice for Hades, her new king. Therefore, bedecked with dew on saffron wings, down Iris flew, dragging behind sun-infused colors of every kind, describing an arc to the head of the queen. To Dido she whispered, "No fear. I am bidden by Juno to take your hair and sacrifice for Dis, and to win thereby your release from the body." Saying these things, she cut the sacrificial strands with her right hand. At once did all color depart the queen, and her life withdrew as well, riding the current of her last breath. Okay, now in penance for that, 2 very quick poems, and I'll sit down. I know I had to give a poem about a bug because every year I give a poem about a bug at this thing, so this one is short. You are every bit as cute as a ladybug. Crawl, small thing, bumbling up my sky-aimed finger. Break open back, separating your split shield, release your wings, and then yourself. Okay. This is a love poem. To the stars and beyond, cliche to say. So, change the scene a bit. Love you to the stars and beyond, to the edge of the cosmos. If it has an edge, Lucretius thought not. Aristotle said yes. Always wondered myself, when I get there, if Aristotle's right, the edge, if Lucretius just beyond. I turn round, go back the other way, meet you in the midway, Milky Way midday, dance and dance till morn, if there is sunrise in space. Catch my fall, kiss my face, in space no one can hear your lips smack, it's a vacuum, damn it, can't breathe either, so we breathe for each other but can't breathe anyway with you near me, run out now of what to say, but I know one thing, babe, we ain't cliche.
Let's see. I hate the way she fits, too tight, stretched across my bones, until my skin is paper thin, translucent, and the weights on my chest suffocate me. See, you say, "Hey, girl," and all I feel is panic, because that's not me. The box is too small to fit even one leg in, and he fits too loosely, draped over these bones, all wrong. and I can't keep from tripping in those two big shoes, and in these two, I couldn't find myself. There was no X to mark the spot saying, "You are here, you are not lost," to ease these tired bones. The first time I heard they, I went home and cried because finally I could wear something comfortable. I could breathe. I felt good and valid and free because, you see, I am not in between, but outside, somewhere in space among the stars where I and my siblings create constellations and paint ourselves in the colors of the universe. We are they. I am they. I am nothing, and I am absolutely everything.
This is called Knock Knock. I'm wide awake and alone in this pitch black room. Though my eyes adjusted to the dark several minutes ago, I still can't see my hand in front of my face. I feel like the too dark, too quiet room is slowly suffocating me. This is too much, I utter, though it comes out as so hushed, it's as if I didn't say anything. Clearing my throat, I'll just crack my curtains. That should help. I slowly shuffle my way over to my curtains, one hand on my bed and the other outstretched until I touch the soft fabric. I part the curtains a little down the middle, the light shining across my door. It feels like I can finally breathe again, so I close my eyes and take a few deep, calming breaths and slow my heart rate back down. I open my eyes, take in the view of the red brick building next door, and sigh. It's my fault. I have so much anxiety built up. I'm the one who got me to where I am right now. I'm the one who decided to take this new job right after graduating. I'm the one who decided to leave my hometown and move to the city. I'm also the one who decided to open each door that opportunity knocked on without ever stopping to think, is this what I really want? I could have taken a year off and traveled to a different country or just relax and hang out with friends. Instead, I wanted to jump on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and get ahead in my career. I sigh and decide to head to bed. I can think about all this later. I startle and gasp at the sudden sound, my heart stopping for what felt like a minute too long. I slowly turn my head toward my bedroom door, my eyes wide with fright. I could tell by how far away the knock was that the knocking was coming from my front door. Breathe, Jackie, breathe. It's probably some drunk knocking on random doors like the other night. I wait, hoping the person knocks on someone else's door. Shit, it's getting louder, I say as I take a half step back from my bedroom door. The knocking is getting faster. I'm not here, I start to quietly whisper with my hands covering my ears and eyes slightly tight. Fuck this. I'll look through the peephole and see who it is, and then I'm calling the police. I walk as silently as I can and slowly reach out to open the door when I hesitate. Should I open the door? It was after this thought that there was complete and total silence. Confused, I reached out, touched the doorknob, and twisted. I paused in opening the door to inhale a sharp breath, prolonging the wait. I opened the door with a small crack when I screamed in terror and quickly shut my door because the knocking was coming from right outside my bedroom door. I scrambled to get away from my door and tumbled to get to my phone. I was in mid-tumble when I heard my door squeak open and a voice call out, "Knock, knock, knock. Hello, Jackie. This is Opportunity Knocking, and I was wondering how I can be of service for you today."
All right, my first two selections are French, so you can switch your brain. The first one is by Kamal Zerdoumi, who is of an Algerian father and a Sephardic Jewish mother, and has lived between Morocco and France. He's a teacher and a poet. Arrière-saison. La couleur verte tremble entre les mains de l'automne. La mort maquille les feuilles pour leurs noces avec le givre. Un silence très ancien se loge dans la lumière qui se tait, et le temps jette les heures insouciantes dans un feu sans mémoire. And the second French selection is by Sybille Rambard. She was born in Italy of a French father and Italian mother, and is now living in France as a full-time writer. Nature en deuil. Vie sacrifiée d'une journée sans soleil, les arbres tombants sans feuilles. Ami de la nature qui juge ce qui n'est pas, ouvre ton cœur à l'espoir d'un demain sans nuages. Tu sais que rien ne te touche, rien que le silence d'une vie, la tienne, vie sacrifiée un jour sans toi. And then my last selection is in Spanish, which will be interesting with my Belgian accent with a Southern twang is what they say. And the reason why I picked this poem is I was just browsing through the internet one time and I got to hear this woman read her poem. And anyway, it was just beautiful. And it won't be as beautiful, but I just liked it. So her name is Juana de America, and she was born at the end of the 19th century. Her first book was called Lenguas de Diamante, so Language of Diamonds. And before she died, she actually got El Premio Nacional de Literatura in 1959. The title of the poem is Otoño del Sur, which is autumn in the south. Con menta y con llanten llega el otoño, nuestro otoño del sur. Verdes limones, gravidez del naranjo, abril bisoño, últimas uvas dándose encontrones, con las primeras agrias mandarinas. La chaqueta de tweed cobra derecho de maternal auxilio y las esquinas donde el picante viento está en acecho, y retorna la cálida dulzura de la casa abrigada, la ternura del fuego, de la manta bien tejida, el amor de los seres que guardamos y la vigencia de los duendes, amos de las menudas gracias de la vida.
I usually try to have something from the archives, and today I'm bringing you something again from the archives, and hopefully somebody will catch fire and say, I'd like to take this on as a project. In 1942, while enrolled in a pre-med program at the University of Maryland, a young man named Robert Bradley, originally from Cadillac, Michigan, enlisted in an Army Combat Medical Service Corps, commonly referred to as aid men, with the 120th Infantry Regiment, the 30th Infantry Division during World War II. The regiment was detailed to the Western Front. In August 1944, after the Battle of Martigny in France, the aid station of the 120th Infantry Regiment was captured and marched to Stalag 3C in Poland, about 30 miles from east of Berlin. And later, they were liberated by the Russians in January 1945. After the war, Robert Bradley earned a BS in physics from the University of Maryland and an MA in psychology from George Washington University, lived around Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and worked in a medical physicist, designing and testing medical equipment for the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, from 1957 to 1977. So this tells you about how somebody from World War II goes on into school and becomes something completely different from what they are now, sort of similar to what a lot of you young folks are dealing with right now. And so he and his wife retired to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and he dies in November 19, 2009, at the age of 88. And I stopped corresponding with him. My correspondence with him stopped approximately 1999, and I'm I just looked him up in the internet and found out that he had died 10 years after I had finished corresponding with him, and I kind of mourned over his death. We archivists kind of mourn after we get really attached to people who donate material to us, and we get, and then when they die, we just mourn over them. We become really familiar with them. So his collected letters, memoirs, poems, memorabilia are all located at Northwestern State University, which is another whole story in itself, and Gettysburg College, which seems to be the more logical place for him since he retired in Gettysburg and lived most of his life in the East Coast. This again tells you that archives material is all over the world in really strange places, like in Natchitoches, Louisiana. So Bradley published poems and memoirs, and including a small yet powerful little book called Aid Man in 1970. And the following is an excerpt from the book. I'm telling a story of one instance what it really meant to be an unarmed combat aid man in the European theater during World War II. I wonder if I am really expressing clearly the feeling of complete loneliness and abandonment which hits the aid man, my dad was an admin. Anyway, aid man, as they were often left to shift for themselves with their wounded men during the course of the battle. Times which profoundly shaking to your nerve and self-control. To change from an essentially non-violent existence where you have little contact with wounds and injuries, where relatively few of our educated people have ever watched fellow human beings die, to the combat situation where wounds and death are seen every few minutes and are in fact the commonplace events of the day, is a profound shock. To sense what primitive man must have felt when he encountered real-life situations which each instance's decisions must be the correct ones. Now, after Stalag 3C was liberated and the Russian allies, Bradley was assigned to Base Hospital in Virginia. And after VJ Day, the men awaiting their discharge notice along with Bradley, and Bradley writes the following. The lists on the bulletin board were scanned daily. Finally, the moment I had been waiting for arrived, and my name appeared on the bulletin board with that of the group to be discharged in a couple of days. After turning in our cloths, with the exception of those that we were wearing at the time of discharge, we were moved to a special processing area for our last day and night in the Army. I happened to go back to the spot I had occupied in the barracks and found it already possessed by another man and his equipment. In only about 15 or 20 minutes, it was as though I had never existed at all in the particular part of the Army, and the turnover was such that in a few months, nobody would be aware that I had ever been there.
I agree with Dr. Keel, needs more death. I suffered a tragic loss recently, which prompted me to write these first two. The last is Sylvia Plath, which represents where I am today. A trial. Anxiety, burning fire. Am I a witch tied to a stake? Do I scare you, or are you intrigued by the way my skin blisters? Pain. Did they burn you because you deserved it? Render your skin and bone and muscle and flesh and hands and feet to ash, dancing in the wind, no more. Did you deserve this, or did they want this? Did they fear you because you have power, innate, inborn, from birth timid, a few words, magic spells? Contort my arm wings painted with feathers and leave you here like a familiar. This is familiar. My fingertips can sense my heart. Fingers, not feathers. Human-hearted, flightless. I watch you watching me, my chest constricted by ropes. You threaten to hold me under, and once again, I do not float, and once again, I drown. My chest crushed by stones, and not the ones you threw in the first place. Paranoia, I'm sure. Anxiety, I'm positive. But no one accused me of being rational. It's 1962 every day. And I feel the stones on my chest, caving in. I'm drowning again and again and again. A performance. I am an exquisite corpse, pieced together like children's games. You draw the foot, I draw the chest. Lift up your pencil, that is where the stitches go. Paper skin, wide ruled, pale blue lines, wrapped around like a flag from some far-off nation, like cyanosis. Mother said money doesn't grow on trees, but blood cells replace themselves. We are all cannibals, an arm and a leg, a pound of flesh. Take from me, a gift. When I am in a gracious mood, I prick my finger. Here, let me bleed for you. It isn't taboo, we all do it. Just close your eyes. I cannot bear to see somebody suffer for fear that we are next. Peel from me my white skin. I would not know what to do with it anyway. Perhaps now I can see myself after there's nothing left. Like an old stump, line up your shovel. Like your father taught you, use the spade. Give the earth a smile as you take away. Strike here, dead at the root. Let me perform for you. Dig through my many faces, find the one with a grin, somehow old and worn, with only 21 years. Beware, front row, staring dumbly as I dance, for I am destructive, and my stitches are loose, and I lose a bit of myself with every twist and turn and spin. There, you found your smile too, better than any coin. Have a souvenir, what you survive for it. Enjoy it as best you can, for it ossifies. Don't bother burying it, there's nothing left to grow. I have done it again, 1 year in every 10. I manage it. A sort of walking miracle, my skin bright as a Nazi lampshade, my right foot a paperweight, my face a featureless fine Jew linen. Peel off the napkin, oh my enemy, do I terrify? The nose, the eye pits, the full set of teeth, the sour breath will vanish in a day. Soon, soon the flesh, the grave, cave, ate will be at home on me. And I, a smiling woman, I am only 30, and like the cat, I have 9 times to die. This is number 3. What a trash to annihilate each decade. When a million filaments, the peanut-crutching crowd shoves into sea, them unwrap me hand and foot, the big striptease. Gentlemen, ladies, these are my hands, my knees, I may be skin and bone. Nevertheless, I am the same identical woman. The first time it happened, I was 10. It was an accident. The second time, I meant to last it out and not come back at all. I rocked shut as a seashell. They had to call and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. Dying is an art, like everything else, and I do it exceptionally well. I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you could say I've had a call. It's easy enough to do it in a cell. It's easy enough to do it and stay put. It's the theatrical, come back in broad day to the same place, the same face, the same brute, amused shout. A miracle that knocks me out. There's a charge. For the eyeing of my scars, there's a charge. For the hearing of my heart, it really goes. And there's a charge, a very large charge, for a word, or a touch, or a bit of blood, or a piece of my hair, or my clothes. So, Herr Doctor, so Herr Enemy, I am your opus, I am your valuable, the pure gold baby that melts to a shriek. I turn and burn. Do not think I underestimate your great concern. Ash, ash, you poke and stir, flesh, bone, there's nothing there. A cake of soap, a wedding ring, a gold filling. Herr God, Herr Lucifer, beware, beware. Out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air.
Hi, I'm going to read the end of a short story, so I have to set it up for you. It's by the Italian writer Italo Calvino. It's from his book Cosmocomics, which is a book in which he has collected stories in which he transforms science into fiction. And this particular short story is called All at One Point. It's about the Big Bang. But as we discover at the beginning of the story, when all the matter in the universe is concentrated in one point, there's a whole community of people living there. they have weird names. The names contain superscript numbers and weird symbols. So when I say it with the one name, I'll say it has weird things in it. So I'm just making up a way of saying it. And it turns out that the Big Bang is caused by love. There's a lot of conflict among all of these people because they're all living in a single point of matter. But there is one person at that point, Mrs. Finico, I'll call her, whom everyone likes, whom everyone adores, and who promises at one point to make them something to eat. We got along so well all together, so well that something extraordinary was bound to happen. It was enough for her to say at a certain moment, "Oh, if I only had some room, now I'd like to make some noodles for you boys." And in that moment, we all thought of the space that her round arms would occupy, moving backward and forward with the rolling pin over the dough, her bosom leaning over the great mound of flour and eggs, which cluttered the wide board while her arms kneaded and kneaded, white and shiny with oil up to the elbows. We thought of the space that the flour would occupy, and the wheat for the flour, and the fields to raise the wheat, and the mountains from which the water would flow to irrigate the fields, and the grazing lands for the herds of calves that would give their meat for the sauce, of the space it would take for the sun to arrive with its rays to ripen the wheat, of the space for the sun to condense from the clouds of stellar gases and burn, of the quantities of stars and galaxies and galactic masses in flight through space, which would be needed to hold suspended every galaxy, every nebula, every sun, every planet. And at the same time we thought of it, this space was inevitably being formed. At the same time that Mrs. Finico was uttering those words, "Ah, what noodles, boys," the point that contained her and all of us was expanding in a halo of distance in light years and light centuries and billions of light millennia, and we were being hurled to the four corners of the universe. And she dissolved into I don't know what kind of energy, light, heat. She, Mrs. Finico, she who in the midst of our closed, petty world had been capable of a generous impulse. "Boys, the noodles I would make for you." A true outburst of general love, initiating at the same moment the concept of space and, properly speaking, space itself, and time and universal gravitation and the gravitating universe, making possible billions and billions of suns and of planets and fields of wheat and Mrs. Finico's scattered through the continents of the planets, kneading with flowery, oily, shiny, generous arms, and she lost at that very moment, and we mourning her loss.
I have two pieces, wishful thinking. One of my wishes is that those dark trees could whisper the wishes of the thousands who wish through whimpered tears of going back home. Wishful remembrance of loved ones with two big smiles. This wish I sense as tree limbs swish and swish that turns into the crackle of a whip. Oh, how I wish those trees can deliver only good wishes for me and for them. Bitterly I know our wishes seldom come true. We wished upon these dark trees for a home far away. Only the wishers stopped wishing, and we forgot the smiling faces. Long forgotten wishes echo faintly in the breeze, and time stops as I ponder those who wished upon the sea. Burnt gray. When great oaks wither, their limbs reaching for hell, decaying as the months turn to years without rain, burnt gray from trunk to tip, I think on us, as we were before the floods came, resolute and reckless and ruthless in our desires. So deserving were we for the pursuit of happiness and liberty. We are now the tattoo of our youth, etched along our ribcage and the stress colors faded. mesmerizing in its age, sun-scorched and lovely, as only the embrace of death can be.
This one was kind of inspired by my short fiction writing class, so it's not very long at all, I promise. Boring, that's what this was. Guarding a treasure that didn't need it. We saw people go in. We heard them muttering tales about the guardians of the treasure. About us, most of it offensive. Jagged teeth, speedy, goat eaters, spooky just like our cave. The ignorance was overwhelming. All of our supposed traits made us roll our eyes. The only thing they got right was the fact that we were invisible, which is probably why they thought all of these things. We sat around snickering to ourselves, quietly though, because they couldn't hear us. Because they could hear us. We heard a scream, which had us running, but we were too late. The female had grabbed onto a class ring and had been sucked into the treasure. The man had apparently disappeared before her, as there was a championship hat on the ground. A goblin slipped out from the pile along with a set of bones. We watched many people walk in, but more times than not, they didn't come out.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging in here. There are 2 additional readers after me, 2 additions. So hang in there, but we're almost to the refreshments. I was going to do something funny and read the lyrics to Britney Spears' I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman, since the theme was transformations, but I'm going to be serious this time. Maybe I should have been funny. But this one I am calling November Sounds. I'm losing the hearing in my mind's ear, grasping to recall the sound of the Canada geese in their constant stream across the sky or paddling across the grass at the river park. What was it like to listen to the maple tree shimmer through my parents' bedroom window while I lay on the golden, warm stretch of carpet? What sound did the old double-hung windows make with each gust of wind on an otherwise muffled, monotone, gray November afternoon? Sometimes, as I wait to fall asleep, I mistake the June bugs clicking against my window for the snowflakes ticking against those warped panes, and all I want is to be cold and free. Thank you.
I'm Heather Salter-Drom, and this is A Visit from the Ghost Dinosaur. Daddy, Daddy, be a pirate, 4-year-old Henry said to his father, Paul. First, I just have to close the bathroom door so the ghost dinosaur won't get out, Henry continued. Maybe the ghost dinosaur wants to play with us, Paul suggested. No, he not nice. What does he look like? He big. He got small arms and wear a shirt with a heart on it. Maybe he is nice. He wears a heart on his shirt. No, it's a black heart. At night, when you asleep, he come out of the drain and toot in your face. He pick the boogers out of his nose and put them in your mouth while you snore. Gross! And I don't snore. Mommy snores. No, you snore. Henry, dinosaurs don't exist anymore. All we have are their bones. Yeah, but sometimes they come back for their bones. Imagine Paul's surprise when a few weeks later, the ghost dinosaur appeared to him while his wife and Henry were at the farmer's market. After the initial shock wore off, Paul decided to take his wife's advice and be hospitable for once. Over coffee and his secret stash of peanut butter cookies, Paul and the ghost dinosaur had intriguing conversations about art, philosophy, and Charles Darwin. Creationists are a bunch of lunatics, as if people and dinosaurs could have existed at the same time, Paul said. Yeah, man, that's pretty far out, agreed the ghost dinosaur. Dinosaurs are a fascinating failure in evolution. This last comment did not sit well with the ghost dinosaur. He choked on his cookie. Then he spilled his entire cup of coffee. After he regained his composure, the ghost dinosaur looked Paul dead in the eye and pointed a clawed finger in his face. I'm a failure? Well, man, so are you. And one day you'll be traveling through sewers looking for your bones. Thanks for the coffee, dude. See you around. Thank you.
When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your mother or father or professor whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts the most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. You may be like Jack Horner in Chisel a Plum and think you're a wonderful guy. The man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end. And you've passed your most difficult, dangerous test if the man in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass.
All right, guys, thank you so very much once again for your time and attention. I wanted to really quickly thank the committee that worked so hard to put this together, particularly the members who weren't me. Dr. Eric Jarvis, Dr. Allison Rittmayer, Heather Salter-Drum. Guys, without you, this would not have been the amazing, fabulous success that it was. Also, I would please like all of our students to direct their attention to the back of our programs, which have a list of all of the amazing English courses that we're offering next semester. Seriously, guys, if you enjoyed any of this, if you'd like to learn more about any of the wild, wonderful literature, that's literally our job, and we would love to share it with you. So please consider that. And let's close tonight by giving one big round of applause to all of our readers. Thank you so very much.